I knew a lot about Allison and Tom Barklage before I actually met them. They were the couple suffering through life's worst nightmare. 8 months earlier, their teenage son had died suddenly and mysteriously. At first, I was feeling a little nervous. Our mutual friends introduced us. What would I say? What if I misstepped? And to be honest, there was also this question looming. How will I handle being around people whose struggle is likely to remind me of my and most parents' most terrible fear? But what I soon noticed about Allison and Tom and their daughter Alexis turned their story into a story for this show. Because what I felt around this family, what they exuded, was not darkness. It was joy. It was love, friendship. They taught a master class at the beach this summer in how to grieve and how to live in the wake of a tragedy. A lesson I needed to share with you.
1, 2, 3, down! Let's go! Let's go, boys!
It was October 30th, 2021. The LaSalle soccer team was on a roll. The all-boys Catholic high school had been dominating the playing fields outside Philadelphia all season. That was the day they clinched the league championship. No one was happier about the win than team manager Blake Barklage. As he headed to the post-game party, his mother Allison checked in. The usual back and forth between a mom and her teenage son.
I had been texting him about when he was getting home or whatever, and I, was like, I love you, have fun, and that was the last text I sent him.
I love you, have fun. That text, those words, would be the last Allison would say to Blake. She and her husband Tom were about to lose their only son. Their daughter Alexis would have to turn 16 without her big brother, and Blake's friends and teammates Kyle and Hayden would never be the same.
We all pretty much had perfect lives in anyone's normal standard. And then after that day, I don't know, it was life-changing.
The day had been picture perfect. A winning game and the gathering of a brotherhood. Young men all going through the rites of passage of a high school senior year.
We won the Philadelphia Catholic League Championship, and then we went to a team party at someone's house after we won.
And did he seem fine?
Yeah, he normal self, perfectly fine.
What happened?
Pretty much we were only at the house for about, I would say, like 15 minutes. We were all like sitting around a table, and I just like felt, because we would always like joke around and like hit each other and things like that. So like I thought he was just like hitting my shoulder just to like tell me to move out of his seat or something, or so he like grabbed onto my shoulders a little bit, and then like a second later I turn around to like with a smile on my face, like seeing what he was doing, and he just like collapsed onto the floor.
And what happened next?
For like, I would say like a minute or two, we were all kind of like freaking out, not really sure if it was just like he passed out or something.
I understand some of the guys tried CPR on him.
Yeah. Sean Martin?
Yeah, Sean Martin. He was a goalkeeper on the team, and he was a lifeguard, so he tried giving him CPR.
But he never came back.
No.
Did you guys have any idea what it could be?
I mean, at first I thought, well, he was eating. We stopped at Wawa after the game, and he was eating a hoagie. So at first I thought maybe he could have been choking. That was one possibility, and then the other was fainting. But then it was clear that after like we could see what was happening to his body, that it was clear that it wasn't either of those two.
Yeah.
I texted my mom, and then my mom called Mrs. Barklage.
And I was like, is everything okay? And I could just tell that it wasn't.
And that's the last person he touched was Kyle. And I mean, he put his hand on Kyle's shoulder and then he went down. So, but just that drive to the party first in the hospital, just like you got 1,000 things going through your head as we're driving. And Allison's talking to one of the moms, and then we get a call from the police. Like, don't go to the party, go to the hospital. So we're just like, wow. So everything just starts going, and we pull in the emergency room, and we got put in a room, and we're sitting there like, and I just kept saying like, this isn't good. This isn't good. And then the doctor came in tears, just so we've been trying for 42 minutes, and just she didn't make it. So we're just like just 1,000 things. Just first of all, I go numb, but then you just like, what just happened? Like, this is the nightmare.
Lexi was at a Halloween party, then got the message to come home.
I remember I like ran inside because I was like, what is going on? So like I run through the garage door. I just get out of the car. I run in. I open the door and I'm like, where is he? Like, is he okay? Is he here? And then like, my mom was like, no, like he didn't make it. Like I would just collapsed, fell to the floor, like couldn't breathe. Like it was the worst feeling ever. Couldn't even like stand to like literally stand. I couldn't even stand up. Like I was just sitting on the floor, like hyperventilating. Like it was just unbelievable.
How were your parents at that moment?
My dad, you would stop crying for about like 30 seconds and then you would just think like, this is real. Like this actually happened to us. Like, and then it just a repeat. It was like a loop right again. Like it was just, I remember looking at my parents and like thinking like they just lost their kid. Like this is unbelievable.
It would take months before they understood what happened. I want to ask you about the cause because you did ultimately get an actual diagnosis of what led to his death. So what was it?
Lymphocytic myocarditis.
And what does that mean?
An infection went to his heart. His pediatrician was wonderful, spoke to the medical examiner for hours on my behalf, and I spoke with him as well during the investigation and everything. Ultimately, I guess he had some sort of infection. We'll never know. This is the part we'll never know. I don't know how long ago a virus would have been in his system to have, but he had no symptoms. He didn't have any allergy-like symptoms. He had no symptoms right before he passed. So we'll never know that piece. But he had fluid in his lungs. His heart was enlarged, and the ultimate cause of death on his death certificate was natural lymphocytic myocarditis.
Of course, people will ask, was it related to COVID? Was it related to the vaccine, which he had? Do we know the answer to that?
No, unfortunately, we'll never know. I mean, he was vaccinated in that May, end of April, second dose in May of 2021. So he died in October of 2021. But he donated blood at LaSalle just in a blood drive, the March of 2021. And he had the antibodies for COVID. So he had we never tested him for any COVID. Early on, we think he had it, but he didn't really have any strong symptoms in July of 2020. He had strep in August of 2020. And those were the last times he ever had any symptoms of being sick. So a little over a full year of him passing away. I think they say within 5 days if it's something to the vaccine. Someone else had mentioned it could be up to 40, which we are certainly out of that window. But we'll never know the cause of the infection that went to his heart.
Impossible as it was to believe, an enlarged heart took down a kid already known for his big-heartedness. Let's introduce Blake to the audience so they know a little bit about who he was and what he was like, because I've gotten to know him this past summer and I feel like I know him now. I feel like I met a new friend. And, you spend enough time talking to you guys, talking to his friends, his sister, and you really have this person come alive for you. And I know that's important to you guys. So tell us a little bit about him. He
was so witty. His friends have lots of funny stories, of him. And so I really wouldn't have thought of that initially, but I think he was funny. He was extraordinarily intelligent, kind.
He was your typical son, your child, because he would love to challenge us. Like, he always thought that he had the gift of gab, that he could outsmart us, outwit us. And I would always try and get him follow some of the footsteps, some of the things I did when I was growing up, like in terms of being a caddy. And I always wanted him to be a caddy at the local golf course. And he loved it. He embraced it like I did. And he met some great people on the course, and I received some great messages. But he was just a kid that I would love to just sit on the couch and watch a football game with and be like, okay. And I remember a great story with him, which we were watching a Clemson-Georgia football game. And he goes, "Dad, whoever wins this game, that's going to be my number one choice to go to school." And I'm like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "It's going to be based on a lot of other things." But it was just the conversations that we had, and that's something that's missed, is just the times that we had with him was unbelievable.
I would say he was like super caring, like in a way that you don't see in a lot of people.
He was, I'd say, hardworking, hilarious,
outgoing.
outgoing. He was very smart. He was smartest in a friend group.
I mean, he was always there for me, and that's just the type of person Blake was.
He was always just like the life of the party, always cracking jokes and making everybody laugh and smile.
He was always so intentional with everything that he did and said, in that he always made you feel cared for.
I think also, in addition to his wit, that really, was critical to me, as his passion, like even for service, which really he developed entirely on his own in high school.
Blake was a volunteer at Treast Hall.
It's a home for men with intellectual disabilities. He sat a lot with this one gentleman who had Down syndrome. And we've started to volunteer there since and love it. And the guys there miss him so much, talk about him.
Even in death, he gave to others.
Or they must not have seen the organ donor on his license, but we were about to walk out and I was like, wait, he's an organ donor. And they're like, oh my gosh. And so
We got a call a couple days later that somebody who knows somebody who worked at a local hospital down in Philly, and they said an angel delivered life to a few kids down at a certain hospital. And they said, we can't know for sure, but we know it's Blake's.
Do we know even the number of recipients?
I think they said like 71 or 75 recipients. I mean, it's
Wow.
incredible.
As touching as Blake's gifts were, I couldn't help but wonder if any of this would really ease the pain of a grieving parent. Can anything be of comfort after you lose a child? How are you functioning? How are you like this? How can you talk? How can you...
Not good. It's still brutal. I mean, the pain is just like, you wake up every day, it's just like, okay, here we go. Here it is again. And it's how you choose to handle it. And again, I'm emotional. I'm a very emotional guy, but I go through the day, and it's some good days, some bad days, but it's just like, I know Blake is sitting there like that. Just keep moving forward.
You just don't have a choice. I mean, we have this situation. Someone said to me recently, unfortunately, a girl, 20, I think she was 20, passed away of a sudden cardiac arrest in the area as well, July 9th. And her mother, when I was talking to her, the father actually spoke at the eulogy, and he had said in there, you could be bitter or better,
He was only 17 years old. It's hard to make sense of. As I've watched the Barklage family this summer, all I could think is there's such goodness surrounding them at every turn. There's something about this family, and there was something about Blake that has brought out the very best in everyone around them. That's Blake's gift. That's their gift. You hope it doesn't happen in the wake of a tragedy. You hope it doesn't take a tragedy to see that in your life, but you guys are part of that. And I just wonder if you could tell me what the LaSalle community has gone through in the days after you lost Blake and then the weeks and months to follow.
They say it's a brotherhood at LaSalle, and that was after what we experienced. I definitely believe it, seeing like all the guys come together to support us. And even we had a game for Blake, and like the amount of kids that came out was unbelievable.
You've earned yourself another day in by far the most difficult circumstances any of us could imagine.
Everyone supports each other and just pushes you. It's awesome.
Always made me feel like one of the guys, even though I was some little freshman.
He was just a big, loving, friendly giant.
He was always smiling. Even when he wasn't having his best day, he was there to make somebody else feel better.
Blake had like a way of making literally anything we were doing fun.
Blake's friends, they're a huge part of this story. The way they've rallied to openly talk about him, to keep his memory alive, to support you two and Lexi has been inspirational. I know they used to call you guys, the group that hung out together, the Divine Nine. And Tom saw you recently and said, hey, the Grade 8. And what did you guys say?
It can't be that, because you still got Blake. It has to be 9.
Yeah, it's always going to be the 9 of us.
This picture was taken of the guys last October. Within a month, 8 of them would be pallbearers at Blake's funeral. They remain a constant presence in the Barklages' lives.
I kept spending time with them. Like, guys, this is where we need to lean on each other. Like, I need you as much as you need me, because I want to hear about the stories. I want to hear about the funny stories. Maybe not in front of Allison, but like, you can tell me those stories. I want to hear about Blake, when I didn't see what he hid for me.
After what happened, we're literally like family now.
Yeah, especially with Alexis, like she said to us early on that like she gained like 8 new brothers. Like her birthday was a week after Blake passed away, so we all like came together really quick, just to like try and make her birthday special for her.
The Divine Nine came into the house, snuck into the house with presents. We got video of them walking up the stairs, tiptoeing up the stairs, banging on her door, then going in, and she's like, and they all sang happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alexis. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Just try.
Thank you.
All right, come on, get clothes on. We're going to Wawa.
Are we actually?
Yeah.
How divine are they?
Oh, they're divine. They're great. They're like the best guys. Like I don't even know how to describe them because they're all so different, but they all like come together and they each add like a little different sprinkle of personality to the group, which is funny at sometimes, which annoys me at sometimes, like a little older brother would. Like they actually are like my older brothers now, which is so crazy to me because they treat me like a little sister. Like they'll embarrass me in public like a older brother would. They'll make sure I'm having no boy problems. Like they make sure of it every time I see them. They're like, no boy's mistreating you, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And they're like, all right, we just have to make sure, like we have to ask.
Even I remember one day putting up Christmas ornaments, the lights outside. Blake and I would always do that. I started putting lights up, broke down in tears, walked away, couldn't do it. Next day, 7, 8 of the boys are over at the house helping me put the lights on. It's just such good kids.
Good kids who will never forget a good friend.
Whenever we would see him, it would just like light up the whole hallway.
He would always make sure that he was holding his friends to the highest standard.
Especially in the beginning of this year, I set like a list of schools that I was going to apply to. And like almost every day he like kept asking me, he was like, so did you put your stuff in for that school yet? Did you apply here? Did you apply there? Did you write this? So stuff like that, where it's like, where I was getting forgetful or I didn't really want to apply to that school, but I set it on my list. He just like kept motivating me and kept pushing me to get it all done.
He would love to debate on things, on certain topics. And I loved that. I loved his passion for politics.
He was an advocate for what he believed in, even with people he loved, right? So it's easy to challenge someone you dislike, whether it's a president or a corporate head or even a parent with whom you don't get along. Maybe you feel more emboldened. But when you're at an institution like LaSalle, his high school, that you love and you really consider yourself part of a brotherhood within, it's harder. It's harder to raise your voice in challenging decisions. And he did. I know he sent an email to the administrators at the school challenging and asking serious questions about the mask mandate. And I mean, this is a cause near and dear to my own heart. But what I love about the way Blake did it was done 100% out of love and respect. He really had questions about why they had promised the kids that if they got the vaccine, they could take off the masks, and then it was revoked. And he said, I received my Pfizer shots in May and was told I did not need to wear a mask because of my vaccination status. Fast forward till midsummer, and the first rumors about vaccination status being non-important while considering masks were being spread. Now those rumors are our harsh reality. The government, state, and national has been mandating me to do certain actions for the past 18 months, and now I feel that my freedom to choose and autonomy is gone. Freedom without autonomy is imprisonment. Amazing. What did you make of that when you saw it?
So we were blown away because we didn't know.
Tom and Allison found out about the letter when the head of LaSalle read it at Blake's funeral.
It took me at least 2 months to read it. I couldn't get myself to read it, but it was just amazing how he respectfully challenged. And that's the key word that Brother James said, that he did it in such a respectful way that we wanted to listen. We had to listen. So
yeah, I mean, you read further in the mail, and he writes as follows: I love America. America is a shining beacon of freedom, liberty, and justice across the globe. Freedom is probably my most important virtue in our society. I also believe order in a society is needed, so I'm not against government in the slightest. I just have a problem that after all this time and multiple assurances that my personal freedoms would not be infringed, the government overreached. Blake got it.
way.
Yeah, he loved his country. I mean, he loved everything about it. I mean, down at the shore house with the American flag always up there. I mean, it was just, you go into his room and that's what you can tell. He was a
And
true,
back-to-back World War champions. was
yeah,
another
like little
t-shirt he
things like
wore.
that was just unbelievable about him. And even the books that he read. I mean, he read a lot of books about the American history and things like that.
Blake's patriotism was well known to his friends, who introduced our family to Tom and Allison. That reminds me, Tom, of, this year, and I told the audience about this after we did it, but we've been having annually now a 4th of July celebration that's patriotic and celebrates our country and our values, and at which we have taken to reading the Declaration of Independence. And we asked you if you would be one of the readers this year, just getting to know you. We didn't know you prior to this summer. And you said yes immediately.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect the safety and happiness.
All of his friends show up wearing basically head to toe American flags. And we talked about it afterward. You were telling me how much Blake loved America and how, you see these signs. It's like, why did we ask you? We didn't really even know you that well. We just thought you'd be amazing. Yeah. And you were, and you got up there and you felt a connection with him, and all of his friends came decked out in the American flag and they felt the connection. And then we felt it too. Even though Blake's applications to college were withdrawn, an acceptance letter came from Clemson, his #1 choice.
One day I come home from work and I walk in, this is maybe a month after Blake passed, and I see a big package from Clemson. So I open up this package and I open it up and the letter says, "Congratulations, Blake, you're in. Congratulations to class of 2026, whatever it may be, and you have an academic scholarship." And I was like, again, what I do, I went to the couch and just started bawling. And Allison was like, "Tom, that's got to be a sign from Blake. That's got to be a sign." And I'm like, I don't know, but it hurt.
Signs, often in orange, Clemson's color, came to them time and time again. The LaSalle soccer team had already made orange wristbands to honor Blake and magnets with his initials. There was the sunset Blake painted as a boy, which looks remarkably similar to the view from shore of a sailboat not far from where friends were scattering Blake's ashes. There was the family friend who felt drawn to the orange corner flag on a soccer field.
She gets the flag and she realizes it's red. And she's like, oh well, because the corner flags of soccer fields are red. But she gets there and she's like, oh, all right, well, I guess it wasn't a sign or whatever, the orange flag. And she glances down and out of the corner of her eye is an orange golf ball.
There was the time Tom was in downtown Philly for a meeting.
We were just going through sales, whatever it may be, and we're talking about emptying your cup. And we talked about, write down what's on your mind right now. And again, I started writing about Blake and I get choked up. I leave. I walk out of 300 people in there. I walk out. And my boss comes out and says, "Tom, let's talk about it. Blake is still giving, even though he's not here." So we go walk back in the hotel and the door's locked. So I walk around the front of the hotel and I bump into a car and there's a BB magnet right on that car. And I'm like, this is, my boss like, "Tom, that's a sign." My manager's like, "That's a sign from Blake that he is here." And then just so happened that the manager of the hotel comes walking out, and I'm like, "What's the significance of the BB?" "Oh, my son goes to LaSalle, and one of his great friends was Blake Barklage, who passed away." And she's like, "And you are?" And I said, "I'm Blake's dad." And she almost fell down. She's like, I got chills. So that's where, going through a rough moment, it was just like, okay.
What kind of signs have you seen?
Too many to count.
Mm-hmm.
A big one for me, and tying it into LaSalle, is as a senior we go on Kairos, which is it's called God's time. It's a 3-day retreat that all the seniors go on for all of us getting close as a class, but also getting close with God. And I was lucky enough to go a second time and lead a small group, and one of the things that we have to do is we have to give a talk. So my talk was based on God's friendship. So obviously I spoke a lot about Blake and I's friendship and how it's changed now, and how it's developed. But a big thing for me was I was so nervous to get up there and basically prepared to cry in front of 50 kids in my grade. And as soon as I got up there and said the first word, as I went throughout my entire speech, I kept having to look over to my left because the presence of Blake standing right next to me was so strong, where I like had to keep looking over and be like, "Are you like standing right next to me right now?"
Alexis sees signs too. A cardinal suddenly in her path, for example, which many believe represents a lost loved one. But she wrestles with whether it means what she wants it to.
Part of me doesn't want to believe in these signs, and it's just like the other part of me, like the part that I can't control, like it's just like I know these are signs.
And you say, I don't want to believe in these signs. Why? What are you wrestling with?
I just feel like if this hadn't happened and I saw a cardinal, like I feel like life would be the same.
And while more private in her grief, she misses her brother constantly.
I love to see the sunsets, and whether that's just going on my back deck and seeing the sunset, or I do go to the gravesite. That's a little more emotional for me. If I am feeling a little more down, I'll go to the gravesite, because that I feel the most connected there. But actually, that's not true. I actually feel the most. Every time that I'm home and it's a anniversary, I'll like sleep in his room or whatever.
For Tom and Allison, option B, the book Facebook executive Sheryl Sandberg wrote in the wake of losing her husband, has been a comfort.
It really helped a lot. I mean, it talks a lot about loss and devastating loss, and so just that you're not alone and different things she went through that we could certainly relate to. But there's the one part of it where her daughter was going to, I think, a father-daughter dance, and her friend was over, and she was like, I want my husband here. And he was like, well, we don't have that as option, that as an option. So we have to kick the shit out of option B. And that really resonated with me, because we have Alexis, who we love more than anything. I mean, and we're grateful for the 17 and a half years that we had with Blake. But Alexis is super, super amazing. And we can't get stuck. I mean, we can't. We have to get out of bed every morning. We have to, and we have so much joy with her still, so much laughter. And we all three of us miss Blake terribly. But he's with us, and we need to continue on.
Sheryl wrote that book after her husband died unexpectedly of a heart attack. And I know I was struck by the way you talked about its role in your life at Blake's memorial service this summer at the shore. And she's done exactly that. This past weekend, Sheryl Sandberg got remarried and managed to find love. And I don't know if we can say her broken heart was healed, but it's certainly soaring in its own new way. And I reached out to her, and she sent a video message for the two of you, which there's a little bit of background noise because she's literally going to her wedding within 24 hours. But I have a message for you from Sheryl Sandberg.
Hi, Allison and Tom. I am so inspired and saddened by your story. The loss of a child is a truly tragic thing, but you've worked so hard to keep this memory alive. And I know that so many people will remember Blake for the loving way that he was. I know you're inspiring so many people, because when people face real loss, real grief, it is how we persevere through it that changes our lives and the lives around us. I hope you take care of yourselves. I hope you take care of each other. I hope you know that it does get better. It never goes away completely, but it does get better. And that Blake's memory will live on, not just in your heart, but in so many hearts. My thoughts are with you. My prayers for your resilience are with you. We never know how much strength we have until we face that situation that brings it out in us. And we all can see how much strength we do.
Oh, that's great.
It's incredible. Thank you.
It's like she knows you.
I know.
Sheryl Sandberg advocated for more flexible and humane bereavement policies in corporate America. Tom has tried to do the same at his company, Johnson & Johnson.
She changed the bereavement policy at Facebook. And that gave me with that and with Blake's story about respectfully challenging, that was my second pain of purpose is really looking into the bereavement policy at J&J. Many companies were 5 days. And,
wow.
And I was talking to my boss, again, J&J was phenomenal. And Tom, you take the time, but I'm like, but it's not about me. I've got 18 years at J&J, and they've been great with it. And my boss, and they're all the way up on our side has been, you take the time. We'll work this out. But I just remember what Blake did by respectfully challenging something that was out there, and I decided to write a few letters. And I wrote a few letters to everybody on the board at J&J saying, here's my story. Here's my story. And I said, I'm not fighting for Tom. I'm fighting for everybody else who may not have the management that I have, that has helped Alice and I and Alexis through all this. So I wrote a few letters, and I found out that they are looking into it, which is great.
With Blake never far from their hearts, the Barklages now partner with Simon's Heart, a group that screens children for cardiac issues.
A phenomenal organization. People ask all the time, like, if Blake had been to a screening, would he be here? And we'll never know that, but somebody else might be.
LaSalle High School was among the first to do a screening.
There was a wait list for the screening that evening, and the last person to get in via the wait list, they found a condition in.
Wow.
So I don't know any particulars. The mother said that she felt like there was definitely divine intervention.
Although my big brother isn't here with me, doing what big brothers do, he is now my guardian angel. He's yours too, watching over all of us every day. With every orange sunset and every orange rubber band worn on a wrist, he's with us.
Allison, Tom, and Alexis will soon mark the first anniversary of Blake's death. 4 seasons on Earth without him, and 8 of the Divine 9 by Alexis's side. They took Alexis to Blake's senior prom.
I obviously knew I wanted to wear orange to the prom, which was a big thing for me because it was just kind of it felt right to just wear an orange dress to my first prom.
Kyle and Hayden struck the same pose in this shot as they did the year before with Blake.
And so we recreated that, and it's just it felt like the thing I was saying before, good and bad.
They walked with Alexis at graduation as she accepted Blake's diploma.
Blake Barklage.
What do you think the meaning of this is? What lessons has this taught you about why we're here, what your purpose is?
I mean, every time I'm hanging with my friends now, I always just take a second just to look around, because I feel like when I used to hang out with them, with my friends, I wouldn't live in the moment, I guess you could say, and it would go so fast and then it's over. Now we're all leaving for college, the hangouts before last few weeks, I just look around and just I can enjoy it so much more, because you never know when you'll see your boys again. With what happened, anything can happen.
So we just live life to what we can.
Clemson's man down going into this freshman year.
Yeah.
They lost a good one.
Did.
Full grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
St. John Baptist LaSalle,
Pray for us.